Welcome to episode 2 on our driver series. So if you haven't checked out episode 1, please check that out first. That's pretty important before you watch this one. So welcome to Amey Golf. Today we are getting the next phase underway. So we've established the strike of where we're hitting it. So we've got hopefully a consistent flaw. We're not trying to correct the mistake. So we've established where the consistent flaw of the strike is. So now the first initial bit is we're going to try and improve the setup to have with that. We've got 5 points to go through. Let's get stuck in. So our first thing to check is our shoulder alignment. So it's very easy to have the shoulders open at address where that trail shoulder is too far in front. So if you can just check that, put the club along your shoulders, and then you will see where that club is pointing, if it's parallel or it's to the left of the target. Most of the time it will be to the left, very rarely it will be too close. So just check that, because that will end up, if you've got the shoulders aiming too far to the left, that will reroute that swing path, which will potentially then come across and then establish a bit of a toe strike. So you are feeling you are pushing that right shoulder back, which will help then square those shoulders up, allow the arm to drop down slightly, so there'll be a slight tilt in the shoulders, and then move that across to the club rather than attacking it over the top, which then puts those shoulders in that open position, affecting that swing path. So the first thing to check is that shoulder alignment. Number 2 is our spine angle tilt. So we are doing a slight spine angle tilt away from the target, and if you allow the head to follow that move, so then your lead eye is just slightly above the right eye, that will encourage you to hit up on the ball to establish a very consistent shot and potentially gain a little bit of distance on it. We want a upward angle of attack. So it's just allowing that slight spine angle tilt away from the target, which will just establish you to enable yourself to encourage yourself to hit more up on the shot. And if you allow the head to go with it slightly, that will also encourage that as well. Just be careful you don't do that, which then has moved your centre of mass, and then you're in a very awkward position, which can cause a bit of chaos from there. So your next one from shoulder alignment is now a spine angle tilt. Next is our ball position, which does go in sync with the shoulder movement that we've just done. That will help establish a better ball position. So the last thing you want is a ball position that's too far back in the stance, so that will be killer to that driver. The driver doesn't like a particularly downward angle of attack unless you're producing a tremendous amount of ball speed. So if you go for it in line with the middle of your left chest, just inside your left heel, that can also establish that you then can get everything else all squared up, shoulders and a tilt, which will then help you hit more up on the ball. So we want that ball position just slightly inside that left heel, or in line with the middle of your left chest. The hands would be in line with that club face. So you get that ball position, it's pretty key into establishing a very consistent drive. Our fourth adjustment is the width of the stance. It's very easy to get too carried away with the driver and a massive wide stance on it, which is then very difficult to get our rotation of the lower half. The wider the stance, you're more encouraging sort of leg drive, but then you've missed out the rotation of the hips. So just be careful on the width of the stance to help drive through that shot a little bit easier, which we will be doing in episode 3, is the position of that lead foot. So just angle that lead foot out slightly. It doesn't affect the alignment, but it makes the internal rotation into that lead hip flexor a lot more easier. So just angle that left foot out a little bit more, get that shoulder width stance so you feel nice and steady, powerful position, but not a restricted position. So our fourth point was the width of the stance. On fifth and final one is tee height. Do not be afraid to adjust the tee height in accordance to how you're striking the ball. So don't be afraid to go for something slightly lower than you have been or slightly higher. That depends on where you're striking the ball. If you adjust that tee peg, that could make a huge difference. If you've got a consistent low strike in the centre point, then try a higher peg. If you've got a too high but a consistent strike, try a lower tee peg. Something like that, of making that adjustment from the orange to the pink castle tees, could make a massive difference in that shot. You've got potential. If you get the strike right and it's slightly higher compared to a lower one, you could gain 10% on your distances. So could be a huge difference for the simple fact of just adjusting the tee peg height. With all these adjustments we've made, please do it around your strike pattern that you've seen. The flawed one, which is basically the more consistent area that you struck the club rather than the odd mistake. It's too hard a game, there will be mistakes in there, but you want to try and adjust everything in sync with where you've established that you generally hit the ball off the toe or the heel. Don't worry too much about the odd mistake in there. So right, I hope that all that makes sense. I hope you've enjoyed the 2 episodes so far. Give us a good thumbs up, make sure to subscribe, and I'll see you soon.